Welcome. I would like to start by giving you an overview of PACE so you can have a clear understanding of how the parts work together to help you manage your business. PACE administration, PACE production, and MADWAC all work together as the PACE business operating system. PACE administration, or PACE admin, is the brain. This is where a supervisor sets up employees, customers, and projects, manages the workflow, tracks timekeeping, and runs billing and performance reports. PACE production is for employees who work paper operations tasks, such as paper prepping and scanning. Metrics such as number of documents can be manually entered for tracking and reporting. This is also where shipments are created and mail is checked in. Paper operations employees use PACE production to clock in and out. MADWAC is where data entry employees perform tasks like indexing and QC. Metrics such as hand key count can be automatically captured by MADWAC. If there is a question or concern about a document, the operator can forward it to the SME queue. SME stands for Subject Matter Expert. The SME queue is checked by a supervisor who will resolve the issue and reroute the documents accordingly. This allows the operator to continue working instead of waiting for an issue to be resolved. Data entry employees use MADWAC to clock in and out. A supervisor sets up a project in PACE admin. The relevant information is shared with PACE production for paper processing tasks and to MADWAC for data entry tasks. As the tasks are completed, metrics captured in PACE production and MADWAC become available to use in PACE administration for billing and performance reporting. This gives you the data you need to make fact-based business decisions. Groups and locations. Groups and locations are set up by a supervisor in PACE admin. I want to take a few moments to show you how we assign access and privileges to employees based on their role. These groups are completely customizable and can be added, changed, or deleted. Here is an example of some of the groups that are commonly used. Here is what we use as a standard employee group. To assign an employee to a group, you just check the box. You can see which employees are already assigned on this list. Select which privileges they should have access to. Privileges refer to the menu items and functions they are able to perform in PACE. You will also choose which tasks they are allowed to log into at the project level. For basic employee access, we have chosen tasks such as break, mail opening, team meeting, and training. Finally, you will select which reports and control documents they should have access to. Now we will look at our admin group. This group is set up for those with supervisor access, so just a handful of people. These folks have been granted most of the available privileges and tasks. We have separate groups for paper operations, and for data entry. So what if you have an employee who is cross-trained to do more than one job? Kimberly Webster performs both paper operations and data entry duties, and therefore has been assigned to both of these groups. This system tracks which job she is performing, and you are able to see her performance numbers separately for each role. Another benefit of PACE is that it can allocate and track work in more than one processing location. In this scenario, we have offices in Boston, Manchester, and Portsmouth. Kimberly works at the Portsmouth location. She only has access to the customers that are processed in Portsmouth. Let's say that Kimberly is doing the scanning tasks for the municipal docks project, but you need someone to begin the data entry tasks. Well, Jeremiah is available, but he works in the Boston office. So if we go into the customer and we look at the locations, you can see that the customer is set up in the Portsmouth location. And all you have to do is check the box to make them available for the Boston employees as well. So now Jeremiah is able to help out even though he is in another location. And when you run reports, they are location specific, so you can see exactly what tasks are done at what location and have a great breakdown of the workflow. Tasks and metrics. Let's look at how we use tasks and metrics to set up projects. The paper operations and the data entry tasks are set up in a single workflow. PACE admin will automatically send the non-data entry tasks like paper prep and scan to PACE production. The data entry tasks will be sent to MADWAC, such as index and QC. When you set up a project, you choose what metrics you want to use for billing and performance tracking. There are some data entry metrics that already come set up in PACE and are automatically captured when the task is complete. Here are the metrics we are tracking for this indexing task: page count, auto key count, and hand key count. Any metric needed for a paper operations task can be created, and the value can be manually entered. For the scan task, we are tracking images, documents, and the scan station where the work was performed. Work instructions are entered for each task and sent along to either PACE Production or MADWAC. Each employee must acknowledge the work instructions the first time they log in to start the task for that particular project, or they must acknowledge if work instructions have been updated. Let's take a look at the PACE production site and see what this looks like for a paper operations employee. We have already filtered the tasks by customer and project. We are ready to scan batch 106 container 1. We click on the Start button, and since this is the first time we are working on this task and project, we are being prompted to confirm the work instructions before we can proceed. Now that we have done that, we can start the task. This shows that the current task is in progress. Now let's say some time has elapsed and we're done with our scanning. So let's hit finish to complete the project. So since we have completed it, we're going to go ahead and check the box for task completed. And here it prompts us to enter the information that we programmed into PACE admin. So we will enter how many documents that we've just scanned, the scan station that we used, and the number of images. And there we go. Now the task has been moved to the next section of Scan QC. Doc types in indexing fields. Here is an example of the document type or doc types we have set up for our municipal records project. We have 5 different documents to index, ranging from mortgage to certificate of trust. We have assigned each doc type its own shortcut, F1 through F5. This is to use in the manual classification process, which we refer to as ePrep. ePrep is a data entry task which is performed in MadWAC. Let's switch over to MadWAC to see what this setup looks like to our data entry staff. Over on the left panel are some documents that have already been classified. The highlighted one that says Unknown is what we are currently seeing on the screen. We can see that this is a quitclaim deed. If we look to our right panel, we can see the document types and shortcuts that we set up in PACE Admin. To classify the current document as a quitclaim, we press F2. And now you can see that the unknown field has been changed to quitclaim. Now let's pop back over to PACE Admin to look at our indexing fields. On the right-hand side, we have selected the indexing fields for each doc type. In this example, all the documents have the same indexing fields. But you can easily assign different fields to different doc types based on which boxes you select. Here is a list of the indexing fields we have set up. Let's click into the document date field to get a closer look. You can choose either text box or drop down. You can enter a tip to help the indexer find the correct information. There are many options you can set here by clicking the different boxes. We have selected Default Focus to make the cursor appear in the document date field when each document displays for indexing. We have also selected Include Inaccuracy Reports, which means the system will track the QC results for this field. There are also rules that can be applied to indexing fields. Since this is a date field, it makes sense that we would assign the Convert to Date rule to it. This will format the field into a particular date format. In this case, it will be month/day/year/year/year, regardless of how the indexer enters it. We have also made this a required field and set it to block. If the indexer tries to move to the next document without filling in the document date field, they will get a pop-up message that the date is a required field. They will have to complete the field in order to move on to the next document. We have other rules such as force upper and force lower to make all the letters in a field uppercase or lowercase, whitelist and blacklist to determine which characters are allowed or restricted, as well as apply decimal format that can be used to format currency fields. These are just a few of the rules that are available. So let's see what this looks like in MadWAC. We are now in the indexing step where you can see the fields we set up. Here is a field tip that's been set up for street address, reminding the indexer to capture number and street only in this field. As you can see, the cursor has defaulted into the document date field as expected. And regardless of how we type the date, the system is going to format it for us. And if we were to try to bypass the date, you can already see the system is letting us know what fields are required. And if we try to hit enter to move on to the next document, we do get the pop-up letting us know what the required fields are, and we cannot proceed until we fill those in. Work queue and auto queue. The work queue allows you to see what everyone is working on at a given moment. Besides project-specific tasks such as scanning and indexing and paper prep, you can see things like who's on break, or if someone is logged into an unbillable admin time task, which is what we use for things like meetings or training, things like that. So we can see here the customer and project that everyone is working on. Let's take Jeremiah, for instance. Working on the Town of Make-Believe customer, the Municipal Records Project, and is currently engaged in the indexing task. The batch ID, 709, the batch title is 121. We can see the container ID, the package ID if there is one, the date and time the task was started. We can see we have 3 people working on paper prep right now for the My Favorite Company Building Files project. We have 1 person on scan, someone on scan QC. So you can see what different projects are happening. We also use this screen to see who's not logged into a task. We can track this with a report called Idle Time Report. This just helps us to make sure that people aren't spending too much time in between tasks going from one to another. We want to minimize that amount of time so we keep everybody productive. And this work queue screen really helps us to do that. Another way to minimize the amount of time spent between tasks is to use the auto queue. The auto queue will feed employees the next task automatically based on how you set up the work groups. A work group is a series of tasks set up to be organized and performed by due date, task count, or percentage. Let's look at our work group for My Favorite Company, Processing. We have set this up to assign the tasks based on due date first, and then in order of ePrep, Index, and QC1. If you click on the Employees tab, you can see the current employees assigned, and you can easily add or remove employees. Since the indexing for this project is extra time consuming, I have also set up a work group that starts with the indexing task. I have set up a couple employees to start in this work group first, while the rest of the employees continue in the general processing group. The work groups can also be set up for paper tasks such as prep and scan, as well as for data entry, as you see here.